All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Wireheads podcast, a cyberpunk podcast where we talk about, in fact, the best TTRPG for your life. In my personal opinion, Cyberpunk Red. I'm one of your hosts every week. I'm Diamond Dust, and with me every week as well is my co-host.
Hi, I'm the brand trader over here who's looking at Daggerheart longingly as she says, the best TTRPG. But no, I really like Cyberpunk Red. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this podcast. Hello, my name is Emmerron. I am a content creator. I am a professional GM. I am an RPG convention coordinator for Envoy and all-around problem solver for several Discord communities. Hello.
Hey, how many hats do you have on your head over there?
Yes. Anyway,
I also do content cyberpunk content as well, which will be I'm figuring out what I need to do with my Wednesday nights now that Red Genesis is over and we're taking a little break until I do a little short series. That being said, Emmerron, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate.
I do.
And I also have a lot of stuff on my plate as well. But I also had a conversation with a couple of friends about, what do we do with our edge runners when there's other people that count on them are expecting things of them. And we were kind of sitting here an hour and a half before show today trying to figure out what this topic was going to be. And
as we usually do, quite honestly. That's been the last couple months.
I feel like we've been ahead of it more than usual today.
Yeah,
but
that is true. It wasn't the hour before; it was two before this time.
Yeah, but we were kind of hashed out. Okay, what else alongside the giveaway? Oh, by the way, there's a giveaway today.
There is. So, let me talk about that. Yeah, let me talk about that briefly. So, if you are here with us live on Twitch TV. We have a link that is, if you are in, I don't know if this is pinned to the top of your stream as well, Diamond, but we have at the top of my own stream, I have it pinned.
Where's it at?
It should be pinned at the top of my stream's chat. However, I can make this nice and easy for even the people
again, because maybe it didn't show up in your chat. There it is.
So,
sorry.
No, this is totally fine. So, I need everyone who is interested in joining our little giveaway today. If you simply go to that link, it will send you over to my Discord community known as the Inferno.
The Salt House?
So it's the Salt House Node community. So that's what we used to be called. I haven't updated that command in quite a while. I don't summon it all that often, but if you go there, you will see it will be called the Inferno, and I am verifying that link actually works. It looks as though it does. If you come to there and you join there, I have got a giveaways channel. It's going to be all the way at the bottom of the channel list for those of you that cannot see. I think the only other one below it is probably the Final Fantasy XIV general channel. But right near the bottom of the list, there is a channel called Giveaways. If you go there, there's a little button that is a little green check mark. All you got to do is click that button and you'll be entered for a prize. I have in my hands here, no, I'm not showing the code because I'm not stupid. This card on the other side has a code, which I will be giving away to one lucky winner. This will get you the Cyberpunk Red core rulebook on Demiplane, and we'll do so for free. So may the best, luckiest, most handsome or beautiful looking person win this. So I will keep that off to the side over here. And if you're here live with us, we are doing that as a giveaway. Now, I will say to our audio listeners who might be watching this later on Sunday, and asking Diamond, Emmerron, that's really fucked up that you're only giving it to the people who are there to watch you live. That's where you're wrong.
Wait, there's more.
We have another one. The giveaway for that, though, will not start until we draw the one for our live audience today. So if you are listening to this later, there will be another opportunity to get one. You will just have to come to my server. It'll be in the same spot as I've just described when we get done with this first one, and you will be able to enter to win there as well. So for anyone who's here live, even if you don't win the first one, you can enter the second. You get 2 chances. Those of you who are audio listeners, though, we do want to offer that opportunity to you to win one as well. So we have 2 codes. One is being given away tonight. The other will be given away. It'll be a week from Sunday is when that giveaway will officially end. So when our Sunday episode goes live this week, I will begin that giveaway and we will get that moving so that you guys have the opportunity to win. So with all of that said, let's dive in, I guess, to the first topic now that I've got that straightened away.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and I was saying earlier as we were kind of hashing this out, with the giveaway, and also we're, later in the link below, we'll be talking about the new DLC for December. But on this half of the episode, we were talking about what happens when there's expectations or responsibilities that your edge runner might have to other people. And this came from a conversation with one of my players where it's just like, okay, but like, what if my edge runner is like, what if they are doing this because not just for themselves, but because they have someone else in their life that they need to make that extra money for? Whether it be you're doing this because your mom has to be able to, your mom's barely getting by, or you've got, you got child support to pay, or you've got, a family.
Oh, I've got even better, more heart-tugging examples, too, that you could get into.
What about your boss? What about, org leaders? What about
little orphan Timmy who says his mom is sick that you find in the middle of a gig? I pulled that one on parties, too. Oh, yeah.
You pulled it on my party. Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah, no, there's a lot of ways to generate responsibility for your party. So yeah, this first half of the episode, we're going to be talking about pretty much that, like how we create that, what that means.
I guess like to start off with little orphan Timmy there, because like, it's not one of those situations where like, I feel like little orphan Timmy, that is a very like sudden now, but probably won't be your responsibility unless you choose to make it your responsibility long term. That's one that you're not saddled with. That's one that you choose to take up. I think we'll start with the elective responsibilities first, because I think those are going to be a little bit easier. Where like, yeah, I remember this scenario. It was during Haven't Got a Stitch to Wear, where my crew, we were playing in Emmerron's Street Stories game, and we were going through Haven't Got a Stitch to Wear, and we encounter this bunch of fucking Doombas bullying some kids, like over, hey, if you don't get those packages to us, you're not gonna like what happens next. So we get in, scrap with these gonks. One of them getting their head popped right out the gate, like popped like just a balloon, and that's how we started that engagement, because of our solo being very accurate with an assault rifle. We just ask like, hey, what are you doing out here? And one of the kids, Timmy, just looks at us, specifically our med techs, just, I'm doing this because it was just like, please, my mom's sick. And well, our med tech, who is one of those that wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's willing to get his hands dirty, just was like, we need to go back. And I was like, we can't after this. Like, we will go back after this.
Yeah, it was not a question. It was like a no. I'm gonna make sure this kid and his mother are okay. Like yeah.
You know, my piranha fixer, she was just like, yeah, we can deal with this later, and it's just like, maybe. It's like, no, we're gonna go deal with it. So elective responsibility is one of those that maybe doesn't so much need an incentive outside the players, possibly, like, it's one of those where the players choose to take it on without the promise of pay, rep, or other compensation. It is very much one of those, you are doing it because of your principles or how you feel about it. It's will say, how I think of it. Or there is maybe some compensation, but there's other reasons besides for doing it.
Well, and I would say, like, these are the things that will earn you a good reputation amongst the communities that you are helping. So the thing about these sorts of responsibilities, because there's the ones, Walrusman, thank you for the sub, appreciate that. With regard to the kinds of responsibilities like what we just talked about, we've got like street urchin who's like, my mom is sick, I need help. That obviously, you'd have to be a heartless kind of asshole to go and like ignore that, obviously, right? Like, I don't know a lot of players that would out of pocket just ignore that plea for help. However, there are times where you will be asked for help from someone, and at the moment that might look really, really good, right? Like, that might look like, oh wow, yeah, that's a really worthy cause to like dive in, do something, help them. But there's
a snare.
There's a snare, or there's something deeper going on there that maybe doesn't change the fact that yes, on the whole, this is something worth like doing something about and like getting involved in. But there's a turnabout thing that then does to you, right? Where there's a kickback on your reputation with another faction or something, or helping the people that you're trying to help. And it might entirely be out of altruism, the goodness of your heart, and you'll be like, yeah, I really want to help like these piranhas, or maybe these albino alligators, because they're just some kids that clearly got caught up in some shit and only later find out they started that shit. And so the people that were harmed by that, now they've got to come after you. So this is where we get into like that interesting moral gray that I think really defines Cyberpunk Red and makes for more interesting stories, because there's no like entirety of it where the one side is clearly in the right and the other is clearly in the wrong. There's always going to be these like weird moral shades of gray where that's concerned.
Yeah, and like sometimes with these elective responsibilities, usually the first things people think of is just like, okay, deliver the package, or go check in on this person. Very, very little things like that. But then you get the bigger ones where it's just like, doing the welfare check like we did, where it was just like, okay, maybe she's got a little cough. No, we had to take her to a clinic. And also in the process may or may not have also screwed with REO Meatwagon's billing schedule in the process. But yeah, that was a good time. The oh gosh, what am I thinking of here? The other part of elective responsibility is on the GM side is your players, like, if this feels like something that's going to maybe dive deeper, there should be a way for your players to turn it around if they feel they may have made the wrong choice when it comes to elective responsibilities, where you can, maybe you've selected, I will take that job for my friend who happens to work for Ziggurat, but then you turn around and it's just like, hey, bud, I don't like what happened there. I can't do that for you again. A few of my players wouldn't waste their time helping a kid. It wouldn't even be a thought for a second.
I mean, that is their choice, and see that, and that's where I'm like, I'm not so prescriptive as to say that you wouldn't help the kid, but because like this was something that got brought to my group early on, and Walrus Man, who is my brother, he and I were both at this table, and there was like a very similar situation. Street urchin approaches us asking for help, and it's only when we kind of like took a moment to like assess the situation around us that we saw there were guys in the background that were like looking at this kid, like, you know, with that gaze that says they're up to something, like this is a scheme of some kind. And at the time I was playing a Netrunner, so like we beat these guys up because they're like they're exploiting a kid, right? But like there's enough of that like it's not wrong, quote unquote, to ignore the kid potentially, because that could be happening. They could be part of a yo gang and they could be looking to jump you. Like there's also that side of the coin. But like at that point it's really down to what kind of players you have, what kind of motives and agendas they have. Like some really might be that hardened and they just say no, like that's not worth my time. That's an expense or a resource spend I don't want to take.
You could be a group of trauma team member. You could be like in a trauma team campaign, and sure, that kid or that poor person might really need the help that you can give them, but you give them that help, the bill lands on you.
Jake, so Walrus Man, so same campaign. This was a little later on. We had a bunch of piranhas coming for us, and they were younger piranhas. Like these were not older, like adult people. This was like woman had manipulated these kids to believing that we were there for them, and we were actually hunting, I believe, that woman and the group she represented. And this got scrappy. There were like, I think 3-1 of these piranhas versus us, and like, what do you do, right? Like at that point it's mortal danger. So the Walrus Man there, he threw a C9 charge and pop, and next thing you know, about a third of the force attacking us was gone. And it was only after the battle where some humanity got lost, because our GM made sure to drill into our minds, like, you see small limbs, you see bits and pieces of clothing that don't look like adult clothing, that are like tattered and scattered around the battlefield. That was a dark moment, but it did happen, and I do have to acknowledge that as well. That is another thing that can occur. There's a point where that good faith and altruism just kind of flies out the window. That can happen. Of course, like, your table needs to be okay with that. If you're gonna do something like that, our table at the time was like very low on boundaries for stuff like that, because we'd been playing together for a while and we kind of all knew where our lines truly sat. And our GM was very respectful of the boundaries that did exist. But it was, there were moments like that came up every so often that were like, ooh, that was spicy. That's where we kind of learn a little bit about something there. Talk about not caring about the street orphan. Could also get industrious. Street urchin, make money. Got to turn your liabilities into assets. I mean, it all gets dark. It gets a little dark when kids get exploited.
Well, outside those, but like also, your neighbors and the other little people, as they refer to them in Blade Runner.
Yeah.
There's the big people and the little people. Which one are you?
Right.
But like when I refer to little people, I don't mean children. I mean like the have-nots. The you know,
read it as unimportant people.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
And like part of the elective responsibility side of this, before we go into like you are saddled with this, like you chose for this to happen,
right.
And this is like something your edge runner must deal with. The other part is like, and I feel like this is a good transitionary spot, is the story of Celsius from Neon Inferno Afterglow. Celsius, it just as a reminder, Celsius took on the responsibility of looking out for Generation Red, like the whole group did, but Celsius kind of became the big brother to that group. Yeah. They didn't have to stick around for Generation Red, and like with and like also alongside with Black Spark, where Chibi was playing as Hyperdrive, she was, you know, she didn't have to look out for her sibling. She didn't have to. But she continued to visit, you know, her ailing sister and paying off the medical bills, despite, you know, how deep she was in until this job came through. These two in particular chose to look out for people that, you know, at the end of the day, there was no gain for them outside, you know, maybe a perk or two, but there was no gain for them. This is when the elective responsibility kind of turns into something more, where we become where it becomes an expectation. Now, expectations are a different variant of responsibility, I'd care to think, where it is expected of you to carry out this task. I
would argue on
that. Do you have just a reword on that?
A little bit. Not rewording it so much as just to say, like, there is a gradient between I have taken this responsibility right now and an expectation being placed upon me to keep doing this. It's more of a, what level of importance do I place upon this? I think the moment that there's an expectation of it, that if it's not like self-imposed, right? Because like with the example like you brought up with Celsius and Generation Red, was a self-imposed expectation that I will be there to protect these kids. They never expected him to do that. Like, I don't believe there was ever a time where they even told him a couple times, you didn't have to do this. And he still did it anyway, right? So I think when it becomes an expectation, that changes the dynamic quite a lot when it's not self-imposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair, because, like, same thing with Hyperdrive, where she chose to continue doing this even after being asked by your sister, why do you keep coming back? Like, I can't do anything for you. And she's like, I choose to.
Right.
And with those kinds of responsibilities, I feel at like above table as a GM at some point I guess, Emmerron, how do you reward, like, you know, dedication to those kinds of responsibilities where you actively choose? Like, I understand that, like, yeah, there probably wouldn't be like a monetary reward or
there's soft rewards everywhere, right? You got reputation's like the really easy one that you could use as like a meta currency.
Well, yeah, reputation, but is there anything else? Because I've considered, like, in the case of Hyperdrive, humanity for... And this was before I knew about interacting with your family as gaining humanity.
So let's look at this as a principle of... it's kind of the inverse of this principle, but the principle of attack the character sheet, right? Where it's like, okay, what parts of the character sheet can be rewarded intrinsically for helping? So reputation's the easy one. Humanity is probably also right there as like a pretty easy one to be like, all right, you have done something genuinely good that is self-fulfilling and selfless, right? that is like the definition of altruism and its reward, right? Beyond that, if we want to take it a little further out, the soft rewards that don't come onto the character sheet exactly, intel, you know things because this group is willing to pass the info along, because especially with like Yogangs, right? There's plenty of shit that's maybe too risky for them to do themselves, like, you know, leads that they hear about because people don't think that, you know, anyone with the capability to do something about information that they're sharing pretty privately is listening. But this kid in the corner is always the thing that's listening and not making a voice known to the rest of the people around them. So it can very quickly become that that person hears this lead and says, hey, while you're here, I know I can't ever truly repay you for the things you've done to help me in mine, but I did hear about something that you might be interested in. And so that they can start like a side quest of a sort that might lead to something that the party wants, right? Whether that's gear or chrome, or maybe it's an alternative path in to finding somebody that they are looking for a main quest.
Monday Crew did that with because they got like a pretty good rep with the Yogangs, where they've been shown to be very merciful towards them. That, you know, Gen Red was just like, you're looking for this person in our neighborhood.
Yeah,
a bit of a weird guy, but this is where he is.
Well, and then like that, and there's also the more direct approach of it too, like saying like, yeah, so last week we had a group of gangers come up and think that they were going to knock over the building. Little did they know they were dealing with 5, you know, AR-15s on the other end of that that equation. Long story short, they ran off pissing themselves and they dropped this. You thought you might want it. And they hand over some really nice 1000 Eddie gun or something like that to the party. Because I think they did something very similar to that for the Neon Inferno crew at one point. So that's another thing that's...
launcher.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like you can very easily find these spots to insert like little rewards. Like this is what the Goodwill has bought you, right? Because they don't have money to offer you, but they have barter sometimes, and information is always valuable. So like all of this can be very useful on top of things like reputation or humanity gain, where it's like you've done something, contacts. Yeah, I mean, and that dovetails in with the information side of it. And Walrusman brings this up in chat. Just like IRL, networking can jump out of nowhere. Access is a good soft reward, especially in a cutthroat place like Night City where friends and kindness are scarce. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anytime that you exhibit those qualities and try to breed them in your environment around you, there is like really, really good soft rewards if you stay true to those principles. It'll take a little bit. Like that's not like an easy in, easy out sort of like transactional relationship like so much of Night City is, but it really quickly can snowball to something really, really useful and positive for your party.
And I guess the next question someone's gonna ask me, well, Dia, when do I allow for such things to happen? Well, the way I've done it at my table, like if your party or like a certain member of the party goes above and beyond for somebody that just can outright not pay them. In the case of one of the crews, it's for an older woman that they tend like there's a couple of there's this like local cafe that they stop at, and this older woman that happens to know each of them by name. It's one of those kinds of joints. Knows their usuals. Asks them a favor, like, look, I can only pay you, 500 each. They're like, you mean to tell us, this booster gang's been coming in here hustling you, and you didn't tell us about it? Where are they? They got a safe house out of it. Like they have a safe house now because they were willing to go deal with that booster gang for no pay. And then we also got what one of the other groups that I've seen in the process, they went and they dealt with an executive who was basically harassing the zoners, and so the zoners in return, give them a safe house, but also give them supplies as needed. Just like, hey, we have a couple fixers amongst our circuit. If you are looking for stuff, we're willing to sell it to you at price. Which, it took a couple of really big acts to get there. Now, the humanity, it has to be I feel it has to be a much more intimate encounter. You are, truly making friends, or you are learning about these people in the process. I feel like that's where humanity would probably come in, is when you are learning about, the other people, when you take on that responsibility.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's this, and again, this is where, at the start of the show today, I glanced back at my stack of Daggerheart stuff right here. There's a qualifier on some powers in that game that there's one that I have on my wizard that says if you cast this ability on a creature you can touch and spend several minutes with, you can clear a hit point or a stress. So in that game, everything is pip based, so you're helping heal them basically when you do it. However, so you can do this at touch really briefly and do the one. However, if once per rest you spend a few minutes not only doing this but learning something about them and making them feel heard, or make them feel better about their condition, and actually take the time to deepen your relationship with that person, they can clear 2 points of health or stress instead. And I view relationships in Cyberpunk to follow almost a similar flow to that, right? Which is kind of what you were just describing, which is if you spend time learning about someone and asking about them personally, that is the rarity in Night City. Everyone expects to be used at some point, or at the very least to be on one end of the transaction at one point or another, because everything in the city is a transaction. The moment that you transcend a transactional relationship with somebody, that's where things change. That is where you are bonding over common humanity, and that's the rarity. That's where, like you said, humanity really does get rewarded. That's where reputations can be affected. That's where alliances are formed. There's that could go on and on and on, depending on how deep you want that relationship to be. It's gotten to points in campaigns I've played in where our nomads have started taking leadership roles within the local nomad community, because they are proven to be so reliable and to be capable. And so that is the far end of that, is where you start taking family leadership and stuff. Yeah, influence is the natural extension of, if you build a relationship deep enough with the right powerful people, influence becomes an almost given. It's crazy what that can turn into.
So we've talked about a lot about the elective responsibility. So what about those that are assumed responsibility, or what would be the word for this is something that your character that is tied to your character, that your character must deal with? For a relationship between boss and employee, or parent and child, or those kinds.
Those are almost expected responsibility. That's when you're talking about there's an expectation of you to do something. And again, even these can be very self-imposed. A great example of that for me, and I was telling Diamond about this before we started stream today, but the med tech that I play in my home group is a ganger, right, came out of South Night City and was very much involved in like gang turf wars, but not as a gun, but as a healer, right? As someone who would hold the back line down and mend the people that came back injured. And this is something he learned from his parents. Well, his parents got caught up in one of these like gang wars, essentially, when the NCPD rolled through and started arresting people left and right. I got away. My parents didn't. So my whole thing as a character, like my long-term agenda is to get my parents out of prison by posting their bail, essentially, which is not a small amount of money. So the idea would be that, long-term, that's what my goal is, but that is entirely a responsibility that, like, very technically, no one's placed that upon me. That is a my character thing, but it's so deeply rooted in my character's identity and the thing they value that, like, it's gonna happen is kind of the presumption, right? There is no world in which I do not rescue my family once I have the means to. But that is the journey, is getting to the point that that's possible. So, that's, I think, where we start breaking into that is those kinds of, like, that's your family. You're gonna go above and beyond for your family if you truly care about them, right? Because there's plenty of familial relationships where maybe that expectation doesn't get felt, right? Or maybe it's actively being worked against. Like, I've talked with other people who've got characters that, like, they don't get along with their family, and their family needing help is the last of their concern. And so, like, there's some of that too, where it's like the expectation maybe is very one-sided then. Like, the family expects you to help them, and if you tell them, no, go fuck yourself, they will not take that well, to put it mildly, depending on what the family is capable of. Like, if they're a crime family, oh God, there could be some real shit that falls out from under that. But yeah, that's more, I think, where we start getting into, like, the maybe more transactional end of, like, expected responsibility. Like, you are going to do this because it is either your job description or your role as the child of this family to do this.
Like, part of the discussion with my friend, they've been recently, they're a big God of War fan, and one of the things they were thinking about as they've been playing through the Nordic God of War was, like, the relationship of Kratos and Atreus, and how would a relationship like that, where you have become solely responsible, like the other parent is out of the picture for one thing or another, but you now have this other responsibility laid upon you. How can that be actively part of your story without it just being, another financial burden of, like, you need this many eddies to make sure that your child is okay,
right?
And also another thought was just, like, if an exec and their boss, or like a mobster and their boss had this relationship, which recently I've encountered playing in Hope Reborn, where my exec had a very, very good functional relationship where, if her boss asked her to do something, she didn't question it. She would just take care of it, make sure it got done. Until recently, when we came across this problem. This problem being the media that was just extorting the shit out of my exec, and also proceeded to start extorting her boss. Yep. So she was willing to go and clean things up, but apparently she learned some information that she really could give less than I care about, and it drove her boss insane that he could not seem to kill her. And it kind of became one of those situations of just, like, watching the relationship go from one of, like, my boss gives me a free hand, and that's the funny part, culture. We could try bullets, but we're trying something else instead. And this one worked out much more interestingly enough because the guy has gone insane.
Yeah, guy's literally gone psychotic in the middle of a auction, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it just oh god,
it's gonna be awesome. We get to watch that play out on Monday.
But like, you know, I feel like when it comes to these kinds of relationships, I would like to take a note out of Triangle Agency.
Sure.
Triangle Agency, one of your three factors, you have this thing called arc, which is your anomaly, reality, and competency. Your reality discusses your relationships outside work, and they are very they fluctuate. If you let a person down, you lose a pip in that relationship. And you're trying to work up to 10 pips to gain a benefit from having grown that relationship. And it can hold steady unless you do something really extreme that breaks that relationship.
Right.
And my thought is, like, it would be interesting to maybe see those kinds of mechanics show up. And I know this would be a really weird one to try to pitch to James, because I know this is a heist game. Cyberpunk Red is an action game, a heist game, but damn, can you really screw with people's emotions as well in this game. And, you know, having these kinds of ways to, like, really track, like, your life path relationships, where, you know, you have expectations. Like, perhaps there is an expectation with your boss. You meet those expectations, you gain a pip, you start gaining benefit. It becomes a little transactional, yes, but also at the same time, it really shows where, like, how dedicated your character is to these assumed responsibilities. So, like, with the matter of, like, Summer's boss, she had no issue taking care of any work for him. That was until he started to try to kill her, and then it's like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you know, to a degree that it's a little more push-pull. And I suppose with the matter, like my friend bringing up, like, what if your edge runner has a child, but you want more going on besides the financial burden? And I was thinking about this one, Emmerron, and I know we're kind of like in that last 15, and I'm just trying to figure out how to pitch this one out here. But I feel like with this one, I know, like with God of War, you know, Atreus goes out on the journeys with Kratos. But I feel like in this case, you can't. There's no, unless you know, the edge runner's child is old enough to be able to even go out and do these gigs, where it is very much like, you know, in the case of my friend, it would be like a father-son relationship of these two working together. Would this look like an exec to their employee? Or I'm trying to think how that would even
so
look.
if you've got a kid, it obviously the dynamic can be really varied there, because then you have
like,
to
the table is okay with this, like,
right,
it's past the lines and veils, Jack.
No, right. But even then the dynamic can be quite varied, right, where you have to ask yourself at that point, okay, how does the child and their parent, how are they, how do I want to put this? Like, how close are they? Does their relationship, is it a loving one? Is it one of respect? Is it one, though, that might be a little bit checkered? Like, because it could be. Yeah, it very could be. Because there's a great clip I've seen wandering through YouTube shorts. I don't know which movie it comes from, but I know it's Denzel Washington that plays the father figure in it. And his kid comes up to him and asks him, he's like, "Don't you even like me?" And Denzel's response to it is, like you, I don't have to like you, but are you hungry? Are you cold? Do you have clothes? Do you have a place to sleep at night? I provide for you. That is my obligation to you, is to provide. And I have provided. So I don't have to like you, but I do have to provide for you. And so, and obviously that's not a good dad. Let's be very clear about that. That is extremely shitty to tell your child, right? But like, you could have that kind of a dynamic with your kid, especially in a place as hostile as Night City. That's not out of the question, right? So at that point, it really does, it depends, and you have to define almost how that relationship is shaped, and then boil it into like, okay, what do you feel is your obligation to this person, right? To your kid. Is it something where you love them? Do you truly care?
What do you teach them?
What do you teach them? Yeah, like what examples do you want to set for them?
Are you trying to pull your kid into the edge running life? Are you trying to keep them out of the edge running life?
Right.
Are you an exec that's trying to, keep your night job hidden from your kid? Like, what happens when the secret spills out and then, your kid is out and about and sees, dad with a group of, less thans? Like, well,
it starts, yeah.
What are you doing?
It really depends. Yeah. Like, this is the other side of that too, is what's your socioeconomic status?
Is it
like, are you all on the street? Like, is your child and you like, are you poor? Are you wealthy? Like, what background do you initially come from? Right?
Exactly.
So like, you have to define those things, I think, first and foremost, to see like, okay, this is the relationship I have. I think the best way to do this, honestly, especially since you're the GM Diamond, I can tell you this very directly, is to create like a questionnaire. And I think like one of the most interesting, like the three most interesting questions you could ask someone about that relationship is, what are the values you want to instill in your child? What is your child's greatest achievement? And what is your greatest regret as a parent? And as it relates to your child? And like create that slight bit of friction there that obviously, like, it's Night City. Like, there's always going to be some friction with a relationship. It might be really easily overlooked, but it's still there, right?
Because for like one of my long previous groups, I missed that group because time slots just don't work anymore.
Sure.
Did actually have like a solo and basically divorcees, and court sided with father because father happens to work for Rockland, so the child's going to be safe and secure, gonna live a nice good life, and like you and the solo, she could not offer a stable one. And part of like those kinds of responsibilities is, do you feel that you are still responsible for your child at that point? And I asked her that, and she's like, yes. And part of those missions was trying to reach, and kidnapping is a crime. It is.
It is.
Being able to still make those connections was part of the side story with her.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of being able to have those moments, like having to fight to have those moments.
Right. Exactly. And again, like that's where like you as a player and your GM probably need to have a discussion if you're gonna go down that road. So GMs out there, if this is a dynamic you want to use, this should be a conversation with your player, and I would recommend creating some kind of questionnaire to give to them and ask them what they feel about each of those topics that matter to not only the narrative, but to like maybe your understanding of the character and their relationship to the player. all of that is really important. I think that's, again, this is where I'm learning things from Daggerheart about how to do this in a more collaborative way that does involve the players and not solely taking the direction from like the GM and their interpretation of that player's life path.
Yep.
Like, it's okay to ask your players questions about what they feel and treat their word as law where it comes to their characters' relationships with the world. That's totally cool. I think that's makes it more holistic, and it makes it feel from the player's side like they have a greater hand in the things that are happening, and they will be more invested in your world and narrative if you allow them those moments.
Yeah, and whether it be, you know, you are doing this because, you know, your dad is old and you're you know, looking out for him, or your boss needs this done, or, you know, you're doing this because, you know, you're trying to make a better life for your kid and, you know, these horrible days that are the time of the red. Always, I feel like, yeah, like, you know, what values you want to instill, or I feel like with, you know, if you are the subordinate in that relationship, what kind of principles does your relationship revolve around? Like, what is important that makes your relationship work?
Right. Well, you could almost use the, like, what do you value most question from the life path to help you answer that too.
Exactly. Like,
there's a I think it's a D10 table asking what you value the most, and it's very much like, it could be something like, maybe your relationship is entirely based upon power, maybe it is about money. You know, like, there's plenty of like corporate principalities within Night City essentially that are like, I will pass my business down to my child when the time comes, and you as the child may not want that, right? Like, that was like the whole arc behind Pixel / Persephone in Neon Inferno 1, was like, I don't want to be some corporate like bargaining chip. I am a person, and my dad can go fuck himself for trying to use me that way. And that was the relationship between daughter and father there. Like,
and like, even, you know, in the mob where, you know, it's just like, you're, you know, like, say, you know, you are part of the Skiv family and you're, you know, trying to, you know, make right by the family because, you know, perhaps your, you know, relationship is out of fear that there's an expectation that you do what the family asks, or otherwise you're gonna get sized for a pair of concrete shoes.
Sure. Yeah, it really does. There's a lot of really interesting angles to play with the parent-child relationship in Night City.
Well, yeah, whether it be parent-child, or like, that would actually be an interesting tool for, like, you know, advanced, like, where the story does involve the player's relationship with their background.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, that would actually be a good tool to make.
It would.
So I might need to look into this, and perhaps, you know, I really like what Triangle Agency has as well. I might need to, you know, borrow one out of, like, not an exact copy, because it wouldn't be, you know, perfect match there, but
no,
I definitely like the scale system.
But yeah, I think, I mean, this is where and I know we've talked about this plenty before, and I will continue waxing poetic about the other systems that are impactful to how I run my table, but like, there's so much to be learned by looking at other systems and how they manage elements of their world and like the people in it, that you can learn from and even extract and reshape to like fit the system that you are running.
And of course, you know, Daggerheart's been mentioned earlier. Like, even like the way that they try to create the relationships between different player characters alone, I feel that would be like really helpful as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we to kind of close things out as we wrap up this half of the episode, we look at responsibilities outside you and the responsibilities to yourself, such as paying your rent and your lifestyle, or other important things, and that to your crew. The assumed the expected responsibilities to your boss, your spouse, your partner, child, or subordinates could be a very, very interesting topic to explore, where these are people you have to be involved with. Like, you have to work with your nomad family because they gave you that vehicle, or the company gave you that house. You have responsibilities to them, or you brought this person into the world, and because you are choosing to let them stay with you, you must take care of them.
Yeah,
because of course you could be an absolute slime ball, and just like, all right, you're 10 years old. Here's a gun. Get out there. Go explore the world.
That's more or less the Uncle Larry, I think, sort of response.
That's absolutely an Uncle Larry.
Yeah, that's like, and this is the thing. Like, I've played both sides of the spectrum. I enjoy being compassionate. I also liked exploring through him, kind of that like very callous, like, look, as long as I got mine, fuck everyone else. Like, doesn't matter.
Like, it was really shown in that final scene in the tunnel escape, where it was just like, I gotta go. And Omen risked her own life for other edge runners.
Yeah.
And then there was also, but then there's the elected responsibilities, where you look to this and like, I want to get involved with this.
Right.
And what you gain from that as well could be a very important story that could be told as well.
Right.
These make for great side stories. They could even make for great main story quests as well. I know, here I am using MSQ, but I feel MSQ is a great term for like when you're telling like, A to B stories.
Yeah,
compared to open world.
And I would also just comment briefly that when you're talking about relationships, and this is true of any tabletop game, right? But like, the moment that you as a game master determine that you want to help highlight and recognize the fact that your players have agendas and relationships outside of maybe the main narrative that you are pushing, that is a great way to build player investment. It's also a great way to set up hard tugs on the heartstrings when you want them to be emotionally dragged back into something, or to feel deeply about something. All you got to do is pull those strings that you set in their path. And it really does, it does impact you. Like, there's a reason why, like at tables, like we will have full like crying sessions at times.
Yeah,
it happens. And that's like, to me, my personal metric is, if I can do that to a table, I've done my job well, and I've succeeded at doing the thing that I set out to do, which is to make players care about the people and the world that I am helping to realize. But some of those people and places are only there because the players have invested time and energy, and maybe even full send, like brought those elements into the game to begin with.
And as always, when it comes to exploring these, like, I personally would be open to doing this as a player or a GM, but always make sure it gets the pass on the safety tools, it gets the pass by the table. And when I say pass by the table, this is more when we're talking about like, hey, guys, this is something that like, I'm an older edge runner. My son is like, maybe coming of age, and I would like, for my edge runner to have to teach my son how to deal with life on the street, because I won't be around much longer. Those kinds of stories. That's something you should get the pass by the table and get the pass by the GM to make sure everything is done safe and sane and consensual. And GMs, just make sure that like you coordinate with your players. You don't have to let your players make every decision, but let them make the important concrete decisions that you write the story on.
Yeah, I would say the best way I could put it is give your players opportunities to speak truth into the world beyond just their life path. Let them tell you, like, because this is the thing I get so often, and this will kind of be my last comment before we kind of end this segment, is when you allow your players to speak their truth into the game, there's so often that I get asked by players like, hey, especially if they're newer to the system, there's a lot of people like, hey, if it doesn't mess with your plans. And I'm like, I don't think you realize how this works. I am building my plans entirely based upon the way that you are showing me you care about this world and the people that you are delivering to me. And so if you want to like go full tilt and like ask 5 additional questions to clarify what that one line on your life path meant, I am not only here for it, I heavily encourage it. And I will treat that as like sacrosanct. And if there's any part of that that I take issue with, that I will address with you. But I would so much rather you go into the weeds as far as you want to go and pull stuff in and say like, this is my relationship, these are the people I care about. If downtime comes up, hey, I'm gonna go visit this person, I will role play. I have no problem role playing the person that you think is important in the world, because that is valuable, and I want every time to encourage that kind of behavior. And I would say if more GMs took that approach with it, you'd find your tables are going to be more fulfilling, your stories are going to be richer, your worlds are going to feel more alive. That is like the quickest way to let that be a beautiful element of the world at large, and to expand your table beyond just the core of the narrative that you thought you wanted to tell. And you'll find that sometimes that changes because of these things. So that's kind of my summation of that.
And Red had a comment. I'll read it here right before we get into the last one. Like, one of her writers said that that the writer, her druid, has had to accept that her child is going to learn sorcery and arcane magic. So, okay, so yeah, the child bloodline is showing, and yeah, they're practicing arcane. And I feel like in that case, then how do you, a divine caster, in the case of 3.5 in Pathfinder, a divine / nature caster, look to a child that is practicing magic you have very little understanding of, and how do you support them?
Well, and there's the subtextual narrative too there of like, if those things are not okay within the society that you're playing in. Because when we get into fantasy, that's where it gets a little murky, is we don't know what the societal expectations are, or what the taboos or not taboos of that society are. If society doesn't accept that in them, like what does that do to you as the parent who has to understand that and be like embracing of the fact, like, oh God. Yeah, and it very much is like it's the queer subtext within that, but it is important.
There it is.
Yeah,
but my actually, Red, if I'm correct, you said you were from Seattle, right?
And that's something that depending on Seattle, baby, yes, they are.
What do you mean it's? Oh my God! What the?
Very queer.
Queer? Yeah. Why did it block that? Anyway, so that being said, oh gosh, just media's kids just like, Dad, I'm gonna grow up to be a rocker. Like,
depends on the media. Yeah, you felt the disturbance on the Force Blue mention. Yeah, we were talking about you teaching your future children how to cook blue glass. That's all.
So, that being said, I I think we've wrapped this one up pretty well.
Yeah,
just
I feel good
be
about it.
safe. Be safe. That's all I'm asking. Anyway, also, if you're here for the giveaway, make sure you stick around for the other half of this episode. And for those of you who are listening on Spotify and YouTube, you make sure you get over to Emmerron's Discord, The Inferno, so that way you can be there for the drawing in the next week because of the release.
Yes.
That being said.
So if you guys have not, if you've not gone over there yet, I'm going to repost it in chat right now. If you come to that Discord server, near the very bottom, there's a giveaways channel. Simply go there, click the green check mark, you will be entered. But that is the mid-episode reminder for anyone who has joined us halfway. That is how you enter to get your demi-plane copy of Cyberpunk Red's core rulebook. And if you are listening to this later on Sunday, when we release this on YouTube and Spotify, there will be another one that we are putting up for that. It'll be running for 1 week. So if you are listening to this within a week of release, you will have one posted there, and you can go join it. So please do.
Yeah. And as always, I'm Diamond Dust.
And I am Emmerron.
We'll see you on the second half, which, by the way, go click on the link below.
Yes,
go
on YouTube. Come to my channel. We're going to talk about fun things. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.